COVID times were obviously very weird and very interesting up and down for the whole car market. So for me, kind of working in the car market, I was doing financially pretty well, a lot better than I was doing before that. In January of 2021, I was finally able to pull the trigger on a car that I don't think I was ever ready to afford before then, which was a GT4. So I bought that car actually very cheap. I bought it with about 1,000 miles and I got it for $10,000 under MSRP. Within about 6 months of getting the car, the market went up that my car was now worth about 60% more than what I paid for it. So a normal person might, sell the car, cash out, take the profit. But for me, I could have that money, but at the end of the day, like what I would want to do with that money is anyways buy a car to enjoy. So I decided, you know what, I can probably just put a ton of miles on this car, actually enjoy it and not lose anything. What I did is I was stuck in Canada for the last year and a half because of COVID restrictions. So I shipped the car to Monterey Car Week. I shipped it there because, really feeling trapped and honestly kind of saving money on traveling that I was doing normally. I could kind of afford to pay for the shipping, the gas, everything. And my plan was to drive it back. So first thing, we get to LA and my friend Jason actually brought the car to me at the airport. So it was very cool kind of walking out to the passenger pickup zone and your car just pulling up there. Then I get in the car and this was actually also my first time in LA. First thing we do, drive to Rodeo Drive, park the car on Rodeo Drive. One of the most unreal things I have ever experienced. Then we spend the weekend in LA, do all the regular shows and stuff that you get pre-car week. And from there, we drove up took about 5 or 6 hours. We went up Highway 1, such a nice road, mountain on one side, ocean on the other. You can't really match that many places in the world. And then we got to car week. Now that was my second car week, and after my first car week I was absolutely sold. There's nowhere in the world where you can go and just see Pagani Zondas and Huayras and McLaren F1s or anything like that just as regular traffic. I mean, by the end of the week you could see a Huayra and you're probably not even going to take a picture. About halfway through the week, this was probably the only time I was driving by myself. I was driving at nighttime through one of the side streets heading to downtown Monterey, and I see two cars ripping towards me going the other way. And one of them was another GT4, so pretty cool. And then the second one was just flying by, and I could barely tell what it is. But when it passed by, I was like, did I just see a McLaren F1 front bumper? So like any normal person would do, pull the U-turn, ran a lot of heavy red lights. I mean, the cars were going the other way, but some McLaren F1, I got to catch up. I get on Highway 1 and we are doing probably about 120 miles an hour. So is the F1. It's the craziest thing. I'm taking pictures of the car while driving. I can't believe I'm driving next to a McLaren F1. So we end up turning on Ocean Avenue, kind of the main street that people go hang out with at night. And just all you hear when I'm following him down the kind of hill towards the main area, every single car going the other way has their windows down and everybody's pretty much screaming. I mean, this is an absolute showstopper. Kind of the pinnacle of what you can see at Car Week is a McLaren F1. Just seeing that there, and then, towards the end of the week, the guys driving it a lot more. I found it again at the inn at Spanish Bay, and just parking my car behind a McLaren F1 to this day, having a picture of a white McLaren F1 next to my white GT4 is unbelievable. And I don't think, that will probably ever happen again, but that was worth the money to strip the car there. The McLaren F1 that was driving on Highway 1, it wasn't just any McLaren F1. So this McLaren F1 is actually an X-Brunei car. The car started off as a yellow regular car. Then it got converted into white, and it also has the high downforce kit. In my opinion, it's one of the nicest McLaren F1s out there. After Car Week, we decided, we're not going to ship the car back. We got to drive it back, got to enjoy it. Again, the car's worth significantly more than I paid for it. I got to depreciate it back down to it. That's just the right thing to do. We start San Francisco. We go to Nevada, which... thank God I tinted the car before I left in Nevada, because you can be driving with your AC on full blast and you are still sweating in the car. But our next stop was in Utah. And obviously, who's in Utah? We went to go visit the Stradman. So another unreal thing is to park my car in front of, at the time he didn't have his new house. It was just a regular size house, but the garage is just packed with, you have a Veyron. I think the 40th Murcielago was there already, which we actually stored for him when he bought it in Toronto. I think one of the Aventadors, a Urus. I just asked him to come see the car, so I just thought maybe I'll pull them out, see them on the driveway. And then suddenly he just asked me, like, do you have some time? Yeah, of course I have time. Pulls out the Veyron and we go for a drive. So I have Jason following in my GT4, and in Utah there's really not much going on, so you can go pretty fast. There's not a lot of traffic, and he takes me to this road that there was literally not one person on, and just absolutely flat out the speeds that I think I am better off not saying on camera, because it's going to be pretty incriminating to him. That was one of the most memorable things. Just, like after you just saw McLaren F1 with your GT4, now you're pulling up to go for a ride with a YouTuber that you watch all the time in his best car at the time. From there, we kept going, we went to Moab, to the Arches National Park, and just having my car in all these different sceneries. Because, in Toronto, where I'm from, it's just the most boring city ever. So, you got pictures of your car on the beach, pictures in the desert, just in front of hypercars, in front of just the most iconic cars you'll ever see in your life. From there, we went to Dream Ride in Connecticut, just probably the most condensed show of hypercars I've ever seen in my life. You have a driveway with probably about $100 million worth of cars. My car does not make the cut to even get onto the driveway. I am in the poor people parking all the way at the bottom of the hill, which I am totally okay with. And then from there, heading back to Toronto, we ended up doing 9,140 kilometers in a span of 16 days. When we started, the car had, I think, 6,000 kilometers on it, and we more than doubled it over just over 2 weeks. At the end of the trip, crossing back into Canada, they're a little more strict than going into the US. So we got, selected for a random search, no big deal. But these guys, they checked the trunk, they checked the cabin. Now the trunk, we had a few shopping bags, some like Hot Wheels. There's nothing really there that we would actually need to pack for a trip. Nothing in the cabin. And we told these guys we were gone for 2.5 weeks. And I guess these guys have never searched any Porsche before because they never opened the front trunk, which had 2 suitcases. So we're not drug smugglers, but if we were, we would have gotten away that day. So one thing with COVID and everything that happened that really made me change my perspective on what to do, how to spend my money, is the fact that when you're kind of stuck somewhere and you can't really do much for over a year, you start thinking more about the experiences rather than, is your money going to the right places and making you money. And buying my dream car, probably in a time where I shouldn't. I was 22 years old. Definitely not the responsible thing to do. I probably spent, I think, $10,000, including everything on that trip. All of that was something I would never even consider doing before COVID, but being stuck kind of made me realize you got to experience life more. And especially with the car value going up, I think the best decision for me to make was to actually go drive that, have that experience, have that story to tell years later. And even now we're in Atlanta and I drove my GT4 from Toronto because experiences are worth a lot more than money.
As dealership systems become more automated and more people sell their cars privately, it's harder and harder to find exactly the car that you're shopping for. But AutoTempest is the most powerful way to shop for your next car because they compile the results from all the major listing sites into one place. AutoTempest.com, all the cars, one search. They search nationally amongst all the major sites, but also allow you to search throughout the country at the same time for Facebook Marketplace results, Craigslist results, and things like that. So we love AutoTempest because it's where I start most of my mornings, searching the deep dark corners of the internet to try to find my next bad automotive purchase. But you'll love them because it's the best way and the fastest way to find your next car. So check them out now at the link in the description below to find your next car on AutoTempest.